Hi folks, Ricky Tang here. Now I am currently blocking my new motorcycle behind me. You may know already what it is. I'll get out of the way and then you'll see my new bike. Now I did say I was going to get a GSX-8R, or at least it was looking very likely, but I didn't tell you what colour. I showed a picture of a blue one, so surprise, it's actually the silver and red one. That is my preferred colour, and I'll tell you why. Back in early 2000s, early mid 2000s, I had a thing for Suzuki's SV1000, the naked one, SV1000S maybe. And there was a website where owners could put in pictures of their own motorbikes. Well, back then, someone put in a picture of their SV1000. I'll show you the picture now. And I fell in love with the look of that bike. The thing is, I knew it wasn't standard, so I couldn't buy it in those colours, or at least not completely. I think you can get it in silver, but you couldn't get the red wheels. That bike had upside down forks, so it was a bit of a custom job, but I loved the look of it, and I kept that picture. I've had that picture since mid 2000s, I think. Yeah, when this became available in this colour, and when I decided I wanted a GSX-8R, it had to be in that scheme. Picked it up on Thursday. This is today, Saturday the 8th of March. I could only really ride it home because it was my lunch hour, so picked it up from Fraser's of Gloucester. Thank you folks. Got it home. Friday didn't ride it. This is Saturday. I've just come back from a 200-mile ride because I've got to run the engine in, got to run the bike in. The bike performed really well. So without further ado, I'll take you back to highlights from today's ride. How are you? I'm doing very well, thanks for asking. Because I'm out on my brand new Suzuki GSX-8R, and this is my first decent ride on a bike on what might go down as a legendary sunny weekend in early March in the UK. Because the weather's going to be very nice where I am, to maybe 16-17 degrees Celsius. Woo! So I'm going to be out on the bike all weekend pretty much. I'd like to get maybe 150 to 200 miles done today, same again tomorrow, because step one on this bike is getting it run in. I've got the first service booked in already for the end of March, I think 31st, and the weather is not likely to be this good all month. It's very unlikely, in fact. So this weekend I want to break the back of the running in mileage, running in revs, while we're under 500 miles. It's officially up to 4,500 RPM, and luckily for me, 4,500 RPM is around about 65 miles an hour on the clock in top gear. And while I'm running it in, I'll generally avoid the use of the quick shifter. Just ride the bike normally, let all the metal parts mesh together, mate together, get happy with each other, and then we'll start abusing the bike. I can tell you, even after 18 miles, that the handlebars, the riding position, ever so slightly more sporty than I recall on the test ride last year. I think what happened is I did my test ride back in June, haven't ridden it since, and then a lot of the videos I've watched on this bike, especially for people who's taken them around the track, have basically said, well, these handlebars are just too high for the track, which is fair, but it kind of got me misremembering the riding position, and I actually thought I thought the riding position was more upright than it actually is. It's not racy, it's not too sporty, but you are leant forward, you know, in your back. You are, you know, 5-10 degrees forward. You're not bolt upright, or at least I'm not with these arms. Maybe for people of a certain age, then the riding position's spot on, I think, for sporty riding. One thing that has been kind of on my mind recently, and I haven't put it to video, is if I was half my age, if I was like 26 years old, you know, this bike would not be on my radar in the slightest. Can't deny it. I'd probably be wanting an R1, but wouldn't be able to insure it, so I'd probably be on a CBR 600 or ZX-6R or something if I wanted a new bike. Yeah, I can't deny that my tastes have changed over the years as I've matured like a fine cheese, and yeah, I'm confident this bike will fulfill my requirements for it. That is middleweight, sporty, fun. Simple as that. Now at home I've got a couple of packages for the bike, a couple of things to go on. I've got a new screen, because this bike does give a bit of wind noise at the bottom of the crash helmet with this screen. And I've got a rear rack because I like my bikes to be practical, so I do intend to have a rack in case I need to carry some luggage or fit a top box. But the screen, wow, I checked the instructions and it's really disappointing. I've got to dismantle a lot of the front plastics, starting with a place under the front fairing, at the front, under the headlight, where there's kind of 8 push pin fastenings, something like 8 of them. Got to get rid of all those, or take them all out. Panels around the front here, and believe it or not, I've got to remove the instruments. I've got to take the clocks off the bike in order to change the screen. It's really disappointing news because chances are first screen I fit will not be the final screen. It may improve some aspects of the wind management, but might make others worse. You know, it might make things noisier potentially than the current screen. So in all likelihood, I'll then be buying another screen and fitting that. So every time I fit a new screen, I've got to dismantle the front end of the bike. Not looking forward to that very much. By contrast, the SW Motec rack that I've got ready to go on, that should be pretty easy to fit. Right, a little check-in after 50 miles of riding so far today. Impressions. Well, first one I'd like to comment on is the suspension. Roads around these parts of the country are often not smooth. They're quite bumpy, and on a bumpy road this bike feels a bit unsettled. It's not really suspending, it's not damping the bumpiness of the road surface, and it feels like that's mostly coming from the shock. Now I understand, I haven't actually looked, but I understand that the default preload setting is 4 out of 7 on the GSX-8R, and it's 3 out of 7 on the GSX-8S. Slightly softer on the rear shock. Anything else? Well, yeah, just over 50 miles. I think maybe this little finger here is just starting to go a little numb, possibly. You do feel vibration, you do feel the engine working, but nothing's felt bothersome yet in terms of vibration. Not too much through the handlebars, but again, I can't use many revs yet, so a bit too soon to tell. Most of the bike feels nice and smooth. No vibration to speak of through the seat or for the pegs. You just kind of feel the engine working through the handlebars. I mentioned the suspension on bumpy roads, but on the hard hits, like on the edges of potholes, of which there are a few around here, I do feel damping working then. I do feel it work to smooth out the shock of hard edges on potholes and missing bits of tarmac. Too soon to really comment on handling on the bike. Although the roads are dry, they're frequently dirty and dusty, and these tyres are brand new, so still bedding them in, so certainly won't be pushing my luck today. Hello down there. So what is nice is that here I am riding slowly, the thing I said I was going to try not to do much of today, but there's so many villages it's kind of hard to avoid, especially when you haven't planned a route. Anyway, going slowly, I can sit bolt upright, one hand on the bar. If you want to sit up, stretch yourself, then you can do. Unfortunately, I've just noticed that the USB is not keeping the camera charged adequately. That camera started out about 90% this morning. Now it's down to 10%, even though it's plugged in. So it's like slightly disappointing. Well, very disappointing, really. I want that USB there to power modern, modern technology, and it's not providing the power to do so. That was close. I've done 123 miles, I think, on the clock. Yeah, and it's saying I've got 45 miles of range left until empty, I presume. So we're talking 160 miles to the tank on this tank, where I'm not allowed to rev more than 4,500 RPM. And I haven't, pretty much. Not for a sustained period. Unfortunately, then the range I don't think it's going to be all that big in this 14-litre tank. But I made my choice. I bought the bike with a 14-litre tank. Nobody forced me. Let's see what it thinks it's doing economy wise on trip 2, which I haven't reset yet. 65 miles per gallon. So we are at just about 200 miles ridden today. Nearly. Definitely will be by the time I get home. And the upshot, well, good things. I mean, I haven't managed to really dynamically, enjoy the bike, because of running in the tires, running in everything. So I've not gone very quickly. I've not thrown it around the corners very hard. So it's kind of what I said before. Good things. Very easy to ride. And I like the size of the bike from the riding position. I do actually like the low screen. It just makes the bike feel smaller, even though the screen is a bit noisy, and I'm tempted to change it because I've got another screen in the shed ready to go on. But I don't think I'll do it tonight, because I'm planning another long ride tomorrow, and I don't want to spend an hour taking the bodywork off, fitting the screen, and then putting it back on again, only to find tomorrow that the screen's worse, the new one. At least this screen's a known quantity, and with the speed I can manage at the moment, it's not too bad, so I'll live with it. Yes, easy to ride. Oh, another thing that's really good actually is that the front brakes, I remember this from the test ride, front brakes are really good. I'm not sure if it was this bike or another bike I rode at the time back in, I think, June last year when I test rode this one. There was a bike I rode which had a completely ineffective back brake. It was rubbish. But this bike, no problem. I got a good strong back brake. So I'm really pleased that I've got a good set of brakes on this bike. The engine shows a lot of promise. I've ridden it before, and I've ridden it, and used the full rev range. So I'm excited to actually do that once this bike is running and had its first service. What's not so good? Well, I've been on the road now for over 6 hours today, and my right wrist is in my throttle hand. The wrist is a little sore. Probably not the bike's fault, it's just I haven't really ridden for 6 hours in a day in quite a long time. This bike hasn't got cruise control, so yeah, it's all in the right wrist. I was worried about vibration earlier on my right hand. I think it depends on the revs and how long you hold a certain set of revs. I haven't figured out what those revs are yet, but generally my hand hasn't got worse. We're okay in terms of vibration so far. Other comments, my knees are fine, so not too compact between the seat and the pegs. So I got back into positives again. Other downsides, the seats. Yeah, again, I've been on the bike for 6 hours, so it's my own fault. But even after a couple of hours today, my buns were a little bit sore because the seat just doesn't seem to have much cushioning in it. So I think that might help a little bit when I loosen the rear shock off. So if the bike generally is more compliant, then the seat doesn't have to do quite so much work. So I reckon that will help. Heated grips. The control is not the button for controlling it is not brilliant. There's only one controller and that's it. You push it in to switch it on and it puts itself on free. But then you seem to have to wait a while for it to stop flashing before you can change it to another mode, a lower mode. You've got 3, 2 and 1. I have been putting it down to setting number 2 though, because 3 was, you know, a bit unnecessary for today's riding. Yeah, and that about summed up this ride. So I'm nearly home. I'm really looking forward to sitting on a nice comfortable sofa for a little while before I get back in the shed and fit the rear rack. So without further ado, it's back to me in the back garden. So after 200 miles, I think I've summarized it in the video, but overall I've enjoyed the ride today, except my backside didn't. Let's get my other camera going. See, not a lot of give. It's quite firm. I'm tempted to purchase another seat. Apparently setting 4 out of 7 is the default for the preload, but I can see setting 4 and you might be able to read the number as well. In fact I think you can. I'll have to have a good look at the shock collar and try and get my head around it. I don't quite understand what I'm looking at, so shouldn't be difficult to work out once I've put the camera down.
It's Ricky Tang, he's got a new bike. He's making a video he hopes you will like.
So Saturday evening I went ahead and fitted the SW Motec rack. That all went on pretty well. The next day I rode the bike to North Wales to Ponderosa Cafe. Unfortunately it was closed. Google Maps did warn me that that might be the case. But for me, I just needed to get the miles on the bike, so I didn't mind actually turning up there. And there was bikes there as well, so it wasn't a wasted trip. Here's a little summary then of what I thought of the ride at the end of the second day, with another 250 miles added to the clock. Right, Sunday evening, it's 5:10, and I'm just heading home, and I have just ticked over 450 miles for the weekend. Aside from that, I've had a great ride today and yesterday on the bike. It's performed flawlessly, you know, nothing to complain about really. Now and again I start to get some tingles and some vibes in my right hand and last couple of fingers in that hand, but then I still haven't worked it out. I change speed or change revs or go on a different piece of road, you know, they're traveling at a different speed, and that goes away. It seems to me that the vibrations seem to happen at lower revs, certainly maybe about 4,000 RPM. The mirrors vibrate a bit and then they clear up at higher revs. But regardless, it's been a great couple of days on the bike. I love the way the engine performs, and I've already said it before already, can't wait to use it properly. I have been gently throwing it at some bends in Wales, and the bike is handling pretty well so far, no upsets. The rear shock absorber that needs a bit of the softening off, I think. Fantastic early season ride, which I won't forget in a hurry since it's on my new bike.